Hey YouTube, welcome to my channel, and this time I'm going to do a 100,000 mile service on my Audi S5, the 3 litre V6 supercharged engine. And also, while I've got it all apart, I'm going to be making a little modification that's going to give me more power, but we'll get to that later. So during a 100,000 mile service on this 3 litre V6 engine, they recommend that you change the water pump and the thermostat as well. So if we look on the table, I'll show you what I bought. A new water pump, new thermostat, the new oil filter, crush washer, 7 litres of oil, cabin filter, a new replacement drive belt. Let's not mess about, let's get this bonnet open and let's get cracking on and get this engine serviced. So I've jacked the car up now and put it on axle stand so I can give me a bit of clearance underneath. We need to remove the under tray, so I've got this big under tray here, so we need to get rid of the under tray because we're going to need to drop the coolant, so we do need to get under this tray, and also we're going to take the front bumper off as well, so I want to make sure that that is released. So as we're going to be removing the radiator core support forward to give us room to be able to get to the thermostat and water pump, we need to remove this bolt here and the same one on the other side, which is there, which is holding the core support in place. So once you move them, then that's going to release it underneath. So next we need to drain the coolant, and to do is I just loosen off these two coolant pipes underneath and pull them off so we can get a good fast drain into the buckets. So next job is to release the bumper from under the wheel arch liner, and that's usually a bolt there, bolt down there, and this clip in here. So once we've released the wheel arch liner, we can tuck that behind the wheel, and then we can get in here and release the two bolts which are holding the bumper on. So I'll go to the other side exactly the same as this, and then we'll go to the front and look at taking the bumper off. So now we've looked on the underneath, we now need to take off this radiator top cover here. So now we can see on the top of the front bumper, you've got one there and one there, and these are T27s. So we should now be able to remove this bumper, and don't forget to unplug any electrics that are behind it. I've got no fog lights. So at this point I just lift off the bumper and just make sure I've got nothing connected to the back of it before I can then tuck it away down the side here to enable me to carry on with this job. So next is we need to get those two big bolts that are holding on the crash bar. So that's the two there, and then there is one through that gap. Probably can't see it, but through that gap there, there's another one there, and the same on the other side. So let me get those off. So I remove two of the bolts from each side and just leave one left in just to hold it for the moment. I'll show you why later. I also then remove the connectors for the headlights because they're going to get stressed if I leave them connected when I slide the radiator pack forward. So if I've done this all right, that should just leave that T30 there and the same at the other side, and then we should be able to shift this radiator core forward. I've got a cold air intake, so I just need to release that down there. So now one of the secret tools for doing this is this, which I think is an M10. So it's just got a thread on the end, but it's got a nice shaft there. So I'm going to put this into the place where the crash bar bolts were fitted, and then be able to slide out the core support on these, taking the stress off any of the pipes etc behind it. So this was a right load of messing around. It didn't work like this show you on some other videos I've seen, and I was faffing about loosening bits of cables, making sure pipes are not in the way. I've done all sorts of stuff to try and get this lot to come forward into service position. I didn't get it too far forward, but I think I managed to move it forward enough to enable me to work in the area that I needed to work in. So I've been battling, I can't really see what's stopping it coming any further forward, but to be honest, I mean, you can see that bolt that was there, there's the hole for it now. So I've got a good few inches there, and the same at this side. So I'm hoping that will be enough for me to work down there to release all what I need to release. So let's carry on with the next step. So the next job is, while I've still got tension on the belt here, I'm going to undo these 3 water pump pulley bolts. It's a bit tight, but you can get in there, and it just releases those for later on. So next I need to remove the superchargers. So to start with that, we just need to remove these plastic covers from the front and from the back. And next want to release the tension on the supercharger belt. I've already got my ratchet in place, so I'm just going to press down on that. So next job is to remove the air intake. Now mine is an aftermarket cold air one, so yours will be slightly different if you've got the standard one on, but it's still kind of the same process. I'm now just going to stuff it with rags just to stop anything stupid falling in there. So next I'm going to move these pipes off the back, and it looks like mine have already been marked, so interesting, these must have been off before. What I was doing in this area is to unplug all the electrical connectors. There is a lot of connectors, and I did actually end up missing one or two, but I managed to disconnect them when I tried to remove the supercharger. And there's one more, which is the throttle body down here. Is these two little sensors on the side. So these are one of those grey pins that you lift up, and then you press in grey bit you've lifted up, and it should come out easily. So next is to remove this line. So next is to remove these plastic shields here. Now I've got the bracket that's holding my cold air intake in the way, so I'm just going to remove a couple of the supercharger nuts here, just so I can get the cold air, just so I can get this bracket off. So next release these two coolant pipes here. So that was much easier by just removing that that bolt that was holding the solid pipes in place. So now that came off way easier. So next it's the 613mm nuts holding the supercharger on. Now we just need to check that everything is disconnected that needs to be. So that is the wiring, pipes, those pipes, that'll stay. There. Okay, so I'm going to put a couple of extension bars in there. So let's just see if we can crack the, that's looking good there. That's looking good there, so it's a matter of lifting it off now. Because I jacked my car up, I found it was a height which I couldn't really lift the supercharger up, so I had to get some step ladders and put my foot just on the engine just so I could lift it off. So now I've removed that, what I'm going to use a vacuum cleaner just to clean off any dust, any bits around here so it doesn't get into any of the engine parts. So to remove the main belt, what you're going to need is a 17mm socket and a breaker bar, and you're going to put the socket on here, and then you should be able to have leverage on it, which will then slacken off the tensioner and allow you to remove the belt. So I've got my 17mm brace bar on here, so I'm going to push down and that releases tension on here. Let's get it off that wheel and from all around. So I was trying to take this off. What happens is it's going to get stuck behind this wheel here, so you need to take this wheel off, which I think is triple square 10mm, and just loosen that so that you can get the belt from behind it. Unfortunately on mine I can't get this well, pulley I guess it is, I can't get this out because the 9mm is a 9mm triple square and it's absolutely rusted. This is absolutely solid, and when I tried to turn it, it just spun, so I can't seem to get it out. But good news is that this belt looks pretty new actually. It's in very good condition, so I don't need to change it, so I can just leave it all loose where it is and continue on with this job. So now we can remove the water pump pulley. Don't forget I've already loosened this, we did this earlier on. So now we need to remove these pipes here. It's a tiny little, I think it's a T25 underneath there that needs removing. So now we're going to remove this air hose here. So now these are the most awkward ones to get off. So this pipe, if you just follow this pipe down, you'll see it's secured with two bolts there, and we just need to get those out. So you do need to be a form of gynecologist to do this. And now same again at the other side. So again, following this pipe here, just follow it down that way and you'll find there's 2 bolts right down there holding it on to the actual engine. So them 4 bolts holding this coolant pipe on here, they're probably one of the hardest. You have to do the bottom one of this side by feel because you can't see it. You can just see the top one, you can just kind of see those, but the bottom of this one is by feel. But I managed to do it, I've got that out. It's going to be like getting them back in, but hey, we should be able to. So now we should be able to pull back this coolant pipe, and we're now going to expose the water pump. I said water pump, I meant thermostat. So this is the thermostat here. You had to get this out so you can get the thermostat off. So now we can undo all of these and pop that thermostat out. And there she is at last, the thermostat is out. So now we can go about refitting the new one. Just give it a little bit of a clean around the edge. It's also got the new seal in, so that's all brand new, fantastic. Let's get that in. So let's get the 7 screws back in, and we're going to torque these up to 9 Newton meters. Thermostat all in, so now we'll move on to the water pump. So the water pump itself is pretty straightforward. You've got full access to it. It's just a matter of undoing the bolts from the front here, and then you should be able to remove the water pump like so. Give a bit of a clean up around the edges, and then fit in the new water pump and just replace the bolts and tighten them all up. Very simple job, to be honest. Once that's done, you can refit the water pump pulley back over the top and put in the 3 bolts holding that on. So now we just need to figure out how this main belt was wrapped around all of the pulleys. Yeah, that should be a laugh. Yeah, did it. So the main drive belt is back on now and around exactly as it should have been. I'll chuck a little picture on the screen showing how that belt goes. Step is to get the supercharger back on, but if you remember when I said at the beginning I might carry out a little mod on this car to give it more power, and I am going to, and I'm going to be using this. Whoa, what's in the box? Yes, it's a stage 2 supercharger pulley from Revo. So this pulley is just about 10% smaller than the original one, so that means your supercharger will spin faster. And along with the stage 2 tune, it's going to give us that extra brake horsepower. But first we've got to get the original pulley off the supercharger. They're friction fitted, so that means I've got to get some sort of a pulley to try and pull that off. Now I've got some pullers and I'm going to try those. Now you can buy the right tool for this, but it's hundreds of pounds. For the one time I'm going to use it, I'm going to see if I can do it with my pulleys. So let's give that a go. So here's my setup. I've got this pulley and it's attached onto there, and all I should have to do now is tighten that, and that will hopefully pull that off. But yeah, let's see. Reason I can use this is that I've got a lot more space. When it's actually on the car, then you're not going to have enough space between the actual supercharger pulley and the radiator frame here, so therefore you can't get one of those pulleys in, so you have to use the special tool which costs hundreds. So anyway, let's see if we can get this off using this. So here we go. I tried removing it with my first pulley and it just slipped off, so I used the bigger one, the biggest one that was in my box, and again that just slipped off again, and it did actually do a little bit of damage to the original supercharger pulley. So the answer looks like it is no, you can't do it, because these just keep the bending at the end. I mean the rubbish, they can't get all the way in, so they're not coming right up to this inner edge here, so therefore these are just slipping off. It's bent the pulley at the back, but I should be able to hammer that back out. I think that means I'm going to have to invest in a supercharger pulley removal tool after all. God, that's going to cost me a fortune. Oh well, let's go on eBay, see if I can find one.
3 days later.
And I've got a Prezi through the post. Let me talk you through this. This, as you can see, is the Forge Motorsports tool for removing a supercharger pulley. And look at that. That is lovely. Fantastic. So that should do the job. You see these bits fit around the actual pulley itself. So yeah, that goes on the end of it. Screw the big bolt in, well, that big bolt, and that should pull it off. Now, these are brand new, about £170, £169, £170, but I thought, well, only if there's people like me who buy it, use it once, and then what are you going to do with it? So I looked on eBay, and yes, somebody was selling one of these, and I made him an offer, and I got this for £90. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use it to take off my pulley, and then I'm going to stick it on eBay and sell it myself. So this tool could go around helping many people, and you don't have to pay £170. So it's a one-use tool, you know. You're not really going to be changing a lot of these pulleys. So yeah, you know, you might as well do that. Buy it, use it and sell it. Because obviously these pullers are absolutely useless because they just can't get the grip on the back of the pulley there. So yeah, you can't use these. You need, you see, it's not getting, see how that doesn't go in far enough. So you can't get the grip. So this should be the solution. So let's get this out, let's get it all set up on there, and let's get this pulley off. This is exactly what you would call the right tool for the job. It is brilliant. It goes very well constructed, goes together like a dream, and then as you can see here, all you need to do is tighten that bolt up, and little by little it comes off until all of a sudden it's in your hand. Here we are, where every penny of the £90 paid. That just came off so easy. Definitely recommend this Forge Motorsport tool to remove the actual pulley. So now we need to fit the new one. Now these are held on by friction, so what that means is I'm going to have to go put this in the oven for about an hour on full. I think that's about 240 degrees centigrade, and let it expand, and then we should just be able to pop that on to the end of the shaft there. So let's go fire the oven up, let's leave this in there for an hour. Okay, now it's about an hour later, so it's been in the oven cooking nicely, so hopefully I can just get it out of this oven and just pop it straight onto there. Let's see if it works. Like a dream. So now the pulley's in place, the next job is we're gonna, while we've got the supercharger out, we're gonna change oil. That means taking out the oil filler plug here. So I'm going to remove that, and I've got a filler kit here. So I'll try and drain out as much oil as I can by sucking it out with this, and then seeing how much I've taken out, and then replacing the same amount in from the new oil I've got here. So having removed the drain plug, I found out there's no way you can suck the oil out, so it was basically a case of just tipping the supercharger into the oil container and removing anything that I could that way. So okay, we've got about that much oil out of it, so I'm going to use the same amount when I put back in, just to top it back up. So I've now measured out the new oil to the same level as the old oil, so now I'm going to siphon it back out with that and put it into the supercharger. And having changed oil, it was now time to refit the supercharger back to the car. And there is a lot of pipes and connectors that you really need to get in place before you actually slide the supercharger all the way down, because it becomes a little bit harder to get to some of those connectors once the supercharger's all the way on its bolts. Probably a good idea, just make sure you're lining everything up. Those that won't reach at this point, you can just get them in the right place so that they're ready to go on when you get the supercharger in place. There we go, it's now back fully in place, and I'm just going through and checking that I have got every single bolt and every single pipe connected that I can see. So there are many pipes and connectors here. I'm hoping I've got them all, you know, on the right place. The connectors are, because I think they're only going to one, it's just these vacuum lines here. I'm just going to have to check this one. And now, time to bolt the supercharger back onto the car. Supercharger's back in, it's just a matter of putting everything back together that I took apart. Oh well, let's get cracking. So it's just a matter of taking your time and basically reversing everything you've done previously. So we need to get all the coolant pipe back in place, we need to get any of the wiring back in place. Those two little sad plastic covers also need to go on. And yeah, it's just a matter of build it up bit by bit until you're sure you've reconnected everything that you disconnected in the first place. So the next stage now is we want to make sure we can fill it up with coolant and that we're actually got everything plugged in. So I bought one of these cheap coolant vacuum filling contraptions. So basically what I've done at this moment in time now, you put a bung in there, and I've got this linked into that, and you put your air compressor, which I've got a little compressor over there. So you put your air compressor down to this one, you allow it to blast through, and that creates a vacuum. Now as you can see, I've got a vacuum here and it's been holding. I've left that for about 5-10 minutes now, so it is holding a vacuum. If that was just going all the way down, that would mean you're losing the pressure and therefore you won't be able to vacuum fill it because you've maybe missed one of the hoses. So the next stage is that we're going to turn this tap here, which is into a bucket of coolant, and that should now suck the coolant in to the system. So let's see if that works. Wow, it is. Now I think it's about 7 litres I need to put in here. So each one of these is 5 litres, so I need to use the whole of this and then most of the next one. It does look like it's marked here. I'm not sure, 1, 2, 3. But yeah, it's marked the litres in here, so I guess I can put everything in on the other one apart from 1 litre at the bottom. I've just got to make sure. I'm going to turn that off now. It doesn't look like the bottom of my coolant is actually right at the bottom of the bucket. Keep it so I can see it. There it is. Right, here we go. So that's scooting in. This is brilliant. Now my min-max is filling up on my overflow tank there, so I might just need to leave that because I haven't even got one of these in yet. It stopped. It's going around the system. I'm going to stop it again. Just check where me. There it is. I can see it right. Right, what I might need to do is just put a bit more pressure in again to allow it to suck a bit more coolant in. So let's just repressurise this. That's good news. It's gone up to the max here, but it'll probably go down. It didn't take all of the coolant, but I'm assuming there was still some coolant left around radiators and bits and bobs, so I'm not too worried that some of the coolant is still left. That's fine. There's nothing dripping from underneath, so that's a good sign. And yeah, so I think we're good. And what I'll do is I'm just going to put the cold air filter back on, and then we'll fire it up and just make sure she looks okay and she's not complaining. So now she's all back together, it was time to get her off the axle stands and then give her a first start up. Oh my god. It sounded awful, and I had loads of dashboard lights as well flashing at me saying something's wrong, something's wrong. I thought, oh my god, what have I done? So I turned it off and popped the bonnet and had a look underneath, and yes, I'd forgotten one connector. Look, I think it was the back of the throttle body, so I plugged that in, went back into the car, tried it again, and it was perfect with no lights on the dashboard. Phew! And the next job now is to drop the oil, so we're just going to remove the bolt there, and there is no way of doing this without getting oil all the way down your arm, but hey, let's see how it goes. So you're going to make sure you have a container that can take 7 litres of oil, because that's how much this S5 has. So next, to get the oil filter cover off, you need a 36mm socket, and I don't have one. So let me just nip out to the shop and we'll get one of those. Here we go, on a 36mm socket, which will go nicely on there. So that's the old grotty one, and yeah, it's pretty black and pretty well done, is that? But yeah, the new kit came with a filter, it comes with a couple of seals, and also it comes with a replacement plug and a crush washer. You must get the crush washer at least. You can probably use your old plug, but you need to get a crush washer. So that's come with it. I'll probably use the old plug, because if you remember, it was quite nice, this one. It's got like ECS tuning on it, so yeah, I like that. Right, let's get these changed, get it back on the car. So the small seal is just on the outside of this bit here, you can see that. So you just need to, again, use a pick. It's going to be easier just to lift that up and get that one off. So now that's done and the filter's ready to go in, let's get it back on the car. And of course then, replace the under tray. And now it's time to get this 7 litres of oil inside that engine. That just leaves the one last job to do, and that's going to be the cabin filter. But I'm going to do that off camera because it's dead easy to do, and there's loads of videos on YouTube how to do that. Not that interesting at all. So yeah, that's it. So 100,000 mile service, water pump, thermostat, oil change, coolant change, and also we now have the smaller pulley on the supercharger, and with the supercharger oil change as well. So I'm going to get this as soon as I can. We're going to need to have a stage 2 tune on the ECU, so I'm going to get that booked in and we'll get that done, and I might even get another dyno run and to see if we can go up from the 420 brake horse we got this to get to maybe 440, 450, fingers crossed. So that'll be in a future video, so keep watching for those things. So I've got loads more jobs to do on this Audi, including what's in this box here. Some of you might know what that is, okay, but that's going to happen to the Audi as well. Not happy with the calipers as well, so I'm going to do something with them. That's all coming up in future videos. If you have enjoyed this, don't forget to give me the thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more videos like this. Till next time, stay safe.